AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your #1 source for after-show entertainment.
AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and Bing.com and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Bar Rescue After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. If you'd like to buzz in on tonight's show, you can buzz us at 424-256-1729. That's 424-256-1729. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Bar Rescue After Show.
Welcome, everybody. Bingers for doing. We're here doing Bar Rescue. Season 3, Episode 5, called Empty Pockets, but it should be called Free Sex, Free Beer, Free Champagne, something free. I'm your host, Phil Svitek, joined alongside Dorinda Barker. How are you, Dorinda?
I'm doing great. I'm so excited for this episode, by the way.
This was an amazing episode, and we have so much coming up. That's why I'm trying to rush everything out. We have Ami calling in. We have Jon Taffer calling in. We have Krisily coming in,
yes,
although she is a regular of our hosts.
Yes.
Unfortunately, Kevin could not make it because he's over at Adam Carolla's making his appearance over there. But I can't wait to get Kevin's take on this later.
By the way, I just want to say real quick, I have had mangria.
Okay, mangria is Adam Carolla's sangria, and it is quite good. So, first impressions of this bar, of this rescue. This was a lot of build-up for us because Chef Brian Duffy built it up, and then it got confirmed with Jon Taffer. So I'm really excited, and it lived up to it right from the get-go.
Yeah, and I mean, if this wasn't the season finale, I can't wait to see what the season finale is going to be because this was outrageous. Well, outrageous.
You know what was nice about, just from a first impression thing, the fact that he had such an American dream story. Him with the car accident, that was really, I felt for him. And I wasn't expecting the guy that we eventually saw.
Exactly, because the guy that we saw in the beginning was not the guy we saw at the end. And I don't want to jump ahead or anything like that. But his story, I loved his story because we all know people who come over here from different countries and they believe in the American dream more so than even people who were born here, live here, anything. And it's really they make it more so than I think people.
Okay. Yes.
We have Ron Hoffman here.
Yeah.
Ron Hoffman. Welcome, Ron Hoffman. For those of you who don't know Ron Hoffman is Jon Taffer's publicist. He also used to be an AfterBuzz host for Glee. Take a seat, Ron, on our guest couch and pull up a headset. Marissa will get you a headset and join the conversation.
You guys have really upgraded the digs.
John's saying we really upgraded the digs. I mean, it's been a while for you, but yeah, I mean, I can't wait to show you our renovations.
You were here in the beginning.
Very beginning.
Yeah.
Marissa, make sure he gets his headset on so people can actually hear him. So, Ron, we're actually just talking about our first impressions. I know you just got back from a business trip. Did you get a chance to see this episode?
I saw it last night, yes.
All right, so you know exactly what we're talking about. We're just giving our first expressions of Ami.
Good. Curious to hear what you have to say.
Well, for me, it was interesting that the fact that he did have a multicultural staff, as they kept reiterating that. Mm-hmm. I thought that was nice, and obviously, I kind of I felt there was going to be that disconnect because of hatred of religion and stuff like that. But obviously, it didn't get to that point. It was just everyone was it was unbiased hatred towards them all. Mm-hmm. If you will.
Yeah, because what did he say at one point? They don't know. They're young. What do they know? They know nothing about business. I was like, whoa, dude.
Yeah, let's talk about, because I opened up the show with the free sex, free champagne, free beer. What was your guys' take? Yes.
We also have Krisily.
Welcome, Krisily. Come on in.
Marissa Sutter.
This is like let's make a deal, but better.
I know. And then we have Ami calling in. Then we have Jon Taffer. This is one of those crazy episodes. But what is in terms of a marketing standpoint? What was your guys' take on? I mean, how can you expect to make money if you're giving out free anything?
Well, I noticed like when he was saying free beer, free sex, everything, people still were not coming in.
Right. Well,
That was the best part about it.
It just reeked of desperation. It just seems so pathetic that this guy has sunk to that level. He's just so desperate to get anybody or anything into his four walls that he's making these preposterous, offers and, Exactly. How does that work with the free sex and the? What if somebody? How would that work? How would somebody take him up on that offer?
Here's what I give him credit for: two things. One, customer reputation, and two, he thought about a gimmick. Now, he was wrong in both regards, or at least misguided. But at least he knew the wherewithal to think, okay, we need a gimmick, and it's all about customer reputation. So I give him credit there.
Yes.
Just not the greatest gimmick.
Who says yes to free sex from him? I mean, if you're gonna offer that, at least
was he offering that?
I mean, at least put a hot girl or hot guy out there if you're gonna say free sex. I'm just saying.
Well, you got a point. You have a very good point there.
I mean, if the Abercrombie models that stand outside the store were outside saying free sex, I guarantee a lot more girls would have walked in. Not that that's a good gimmick. It's not.
I just assumed the free sex was inside and he was luring you in. So there was somebody there waiting to provide that service.
Is
Like
that on
your
the pool
creepy dad.
table?
Yeah.
Next to the beer. And I don't know if there's like separate lines for each of those opportunities. So the free beer line is on one side to the left. Free sex is on the right. I don't know.
You got to take a ticket.
Let me ask you guys about, in terms of the clientele, why was he so proud of the clientele that he had? I mean, the one woman sleeping, which was hysterical. Then the one guy can't but his senses were amazing. Yes, go ahead, Dorinda.
I'm going to do it. I'm bringing it up now. And we're, 6-7 minutes in?
7 minutes in. The Pirates episode is being brought up.
Where he's talking, goes, you're a pretty girl.
Yeah.
And I was just like, the Pirates episode has now hit us once again. It never goes away, the Pirates episode.
That's all you could understand that he said, though.
Yeah.
So at least he said that properly. Because
Exactly.
nothing else was understandable.
Now, as attractive women, do you get that a lot when you guys are in bars? I mean, is there that guy in just about every bar? Because it's not the first time I've ever noticed that or seen that. I mean, it just seems like that's a pretty typical behavior to have drunk guy slobbering all over you, or is it rare? Is that a really unique? Experience that you wouldn't typically find?
I've never had anyone quite that drunk.
No.
But I do believe that the liquid courage is definitely helpful with most people being approached to the bar.
Very much, especially around 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Can I say this, though? I mean, to defend guys, at the very least, when you choose a bar you go to, there's a certain, again, it's about the clientele. And so, at least the guys that are kind of hitting on you, you know what they're about, but at least like they're not him. They're not there every day drunk to that level. That's just a Friday night for them, and they're trying to, they're kind of young and they're trying to get laid, and for better or worse, that's their method of going about it. This guy's method is just, this is his lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I think that's the difference.
Yeah, I guess you're right. So they don't all look like Yosemite Sam. And,
No.
No.
No. Thank God.
By the way, speaking in terms of the bar, it was a pretty big bar. It was 6,200 square feet, which is really big. And let's talk about the pool area, because obviously, that's just so monetizable, and that got mentioned numerous times. But why wouldn't you have the instinct to do anything with that?
Well, that was a good question, because most pool halls I've ever been to are billiards places, which it had, said it was a billiards place. It had it on, even though you couldn't really see it on the outside. Normally you get charged by the hour.
Yeah.
Whenever I've been to one, it's like charged by the hour. And
anything, whether it's darts, whether it's bowling, anything.
And they didn't charge at all for that. And that leads people to stay even longer, and they're not drinking. Oh, and they didn't have cocktail service there.
Blown away.
Yeah, I couldn't believe why they didn't have cocktail service there. And I looked at that, and you probably did too, where there's 3 girls behind that bar. It's not a busy bar. You send someone out to go to the pool
Let me ask you, who ultimately was responsible? I mean, it seemed like Sarah, as the manager, she knew what needed to be done. Do you think, because that wasn't properly explained, there was no system in place for that, for the kitchen?
No, well, she said she tried to put a system in place, but Ami didn't allow her to do that.
I had to wonder as well, at the beginning of the episode, and it showed the bar doing so well, and their numbers were huge before his accident. So you have to wonder, did they have all that in place before, and it just fell apart, and he just kind of lost hope and gave up, and that's why he was trying to do everything for free? Like, I wondered if they had originally ever done any of that. I mean, even as, I'm sure we'll get to this, but the kitchen, it was just like, this was one of my favorite episodes, because it wasn't just one thing that stuck out that I was like, oh, well, yeah, that's kind of a mess up. There were so many things at this time I was like, what are they thinking?
Well, we actually have Ami on the line, so perfect time for him. Hello, Ami, are you there?
Hey, good evening, guys.
Good evening to you. Welcome to the show.
How's the weather in Los Angeles?
It's good. It's good. So I don't know if you just heard kind of Krisyly's question, but you know,
I only heard literally the last sentence. I was not even aware that she was talking about.
No worries. So the question is, you know, was there a system in place before your accident that then maybe disintegrated after your accident, or you know, in terms of getting drinks to the bar, you know, the way the food was coming in and out? How was it structured beforehand, before Jon?
Well, of course there was a system. No business can survive without a system. And obviously you would have not stayed in business for 3 years if things was totally out of hand. But of course, the life of the business and should we say, the engine that made that business move was I. As a small business owner, I spend 16, 18 hours a day over there. So in the moment I was not able to be there every day, things to some degree went out of hand.
And let me, what was the length of time after your accident, you know, to the taping of the show?
I was away from the bar for almost 6 months.
6 months. Wow. That's a long time.
Yeah, that is.
You cannot run. Anybody who is listening to this show right now, and I'm sure you guys obviously in business, so you are aware of it, you cannot run a small business without the owner being there. And he can have the most loyal and dedicated workforce working for him, but they won't do the same job as an owner being there, because they do the day-to-day running of the business. They don't do there is a lot of work to be done behind the scenes, in the office, you know, and that was nobody was doing. And also the day-to-day went not so well.
What about your family? I know, you know, you have 3 beautiful children. You have your wife. Did they, you know, help the bar in any way during this time?
My kids, I have one older son, which is in college, and I really have 4 kids.
Okay.
One in college, and obviously he's a student, and my other kids are small, 4 and 3 and 1.
Oh, they're not running a bar then, are they?
No.
They're a little too young to get behind the bar.
I really tried, you know, but they have drinking problems. They wanted everything involved around milk.
Yeah.
So that really worked out. I mean, you know, it was hard, but
now
I went down and I fixed things.
Let me ask this. You know, I give you a lot of credit for caring about your customers, and you had said that, you know, the last staff really ruined that reputation. What was your clientele like beforehand? You know, who was coming into that bar? Was it young students? Was it an older crowd? Who was?
We were getting all variety of life. We used to get the college kids, and we used to get the people who went out for a nice game of pool. We were very popular, and we were still popular. And we are popular.
How is the business doing?
It's not. The bar was not a total failure, as they made it look on the show. He was in the process of not doing very well, and Jon came, and yeah, they did help in some things. They did make some mistakes because you cannot expect them not to, because they're coming from outside. They're not there from day to day. They cannot come and take one look. It doesn't work with a magic wand. Oh, yeah, I took one look and I'm changing. Are you there?
Yes, we're here. We're listening.
Okay. So, yes, they made a few mistakes.
Do you have any specifics,
or-
like anything specific that that didn't work in your mind?
They gave me something that called a beer wall system, and obviously they didn't even put it in the show because the thing was not really working.
And forgive us, what was it supposed to do?
It's like let's call it like they wanted to create a system of self-serving alcohol.
Okay.
Self-serving beer.
Yeah, we've seen that.
Oh yeah, we've seen that before.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, it did not. The machine was not operating properly, and it did not work well in our environment because the bar is small, so it didn't make sense to have people pour their own beer while they can go to the bar and get this served by the bartender, because the bartender need to make a living too, and if they take care of themselves, they're not tipping her either.
Mm-hmm.
So the girl didn't like that, and I kind of.
What would you guess the percentage of things that worked to things that didn't work? Like, what have you kept and what have you gotten rid of?
They wanted. I mean, they put. Obviously, they gave us a new name. They tried to put the new brand around, and they changed the system a little bit of working. The good thing they did is they gave us a really good POS system, which helps a lot, no question about it. This is something that at the time I didn't have the money to do by myself because POS systems are very expensive.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped. That definitely helped the kitchen turnaround, no question about that, and that's better on inventory, and that's better on running business in general. So that definitely helped. The beer wall was not, and they put some more lights and stuff to make the place look a little bit more of a club-like, which we work like that during the weekend because it's okay. It's like a club environment. But during the week, my regular customers did not like it because it made it too much look of a club. And people who come to play pool, they don't want to come to a club. They want to come to a pool hall. It's a little bit different environment. But in the weekend, when my customer base changed, that's actually okay. So that's one of the reasons, like I said, during the week, we're not really putting all the LED lights out. We don't want to be look too much like a club.
Yeah. And let me ask you this: how did you get involved with the show? And obviously I want to kind of get to you and Jon. And what was your impressions of Jon going into this? Because
Jon is a very nice guy. Actually, we got along very well. You do have to understand that this is a scenario that the company, the producing company, are pushing you to so-called go out on the limit. Plus, it's not staged per se, but when somebody come and let's say yell at you, there is a certain amount of reaction that you can do, and then they roll with it. So it's not staged, but it's directed. It's like Pavlovian act, per se. So, yes, and I played along, and they were very happy with but behind the scene, me and Jon got along very fabulously. He's a very nice guy, actually.
Mm-hmm. He seems like it.
And he cares, no question about it. In my humble opinion, the show was not cut properly. They considered too much of making me look bad, which is okay, but I'm not really that bad.
I actually, you know what's funny?
And also, they did not give a chance. You know how in other shows they give a chance, so-called, to the owner to redeem himself, per se? They didn't do it in this cutting.
Really? I honestly thought they did redeem you very well, especially when you and Jon sat down and talked. And
Yeah, that was not enough.
Oh, I thought afterwards it was a much different. There was a much different side to you, and it was definitely much warmer, much more positive. And I thought by the end, I mean, honestly, I was cheering you on, and I want you to do and be very successful.
Of course, I would like to have a family to support, no question about it.
And it's true.
The thing is, obviously, the cut was meant to make me look bad. Nobody is that bad because nobody will stay in business if it's that bad. Nobody will work for him. The people that work for me like me very much. I guarantee you that.
I actually like that they showed that you had such a strong personality and that you were so passionate about what you do, because in the end you wanted the bar to be successful. And no matter how and no matter how you went around it, at the end there's been episodes of Bar Rescue where at the end I still hate the owner and I don't want them to get the bar rescue. And at the end of this episode I thought you looked amazing. And so I think sometimes we watch ourselves and it's harder to judge what we look like, but as viewers I thought you came across amazingly well at the end. And it showed that you really wanted not only yourself and your bar to succeed, but even hearing you now talking about the self-serve beer. I mean, I was a bartender for 10 years. I would hate that. So the fact that you
see, that's why it might have been actually good for me, because it's a good gimmick. But I care about the girls that work for me.
Right, which is amazing.
They complained about that, and they said, listen, we know it's a moneymaker, but we're not going to make any tips.
Right.
And without second thought about it, I said, absolutely, I would take it off, and I did.
See, that's a good owner.
Yeah, in my
yes,
perception.
Because working in a bar environment, and I don't know you, so I don't know if you guys ever worked in a bar before.
Yeah, we did for a long time.
It's like a family. You meet a lot of people, and the girls depend on me for many things, and I depend on them, of course, for my livelihood, because, like I said before, I do a lot of things behind the scenes, but the front of the bar is the girls. And I said that many times to them. We have the same alcohol like everybody else. We have a small little gimmick that we do, but they come to see you. Mm-hmm. And that's why you have to be pleasant, and that's why you have to be at your best attitude and behavior, because they come in to be your customers. And if you ever go online and look at reviews of us, the customers love the bartenders.
Yes, they also have... They also seem to love something else that isn't there. We didn't see it in the episode, and it's not there now. You guys had a hot tub in the bar?
Yeah.
For when we first opened, when I first opened my business, you have to put an impression on people's mind. And as luck made it happen, when I first opened the business, it happened to be exactly a month before my birthday. And it was obviously, it is Colorado, Denver, and it was February. And we decided to do a pool party. So, because I knew when I first opened the business, I had to make a good impression on people and something that stuck in their mind, because you have to understand business is the people that are drinking right now, they're drinking somewhere. For me to open a bar and expect them to come see me, they have to change their habits, which means they have to decide, okay, we know what, we're not going to such and such bar, we're going to go to Zanzibar to play pool and have fun. So to change that habit, you have to give them like a nudge in your direction, So to do that, what I did is I did a pool party, The pun is intended. We brought in almost 100,000 pounds of sand into the place, and we cracked the heat up to like 95 degrees, and we told everybody to come in bathing suits. And we had a summer pool party in the winter with like 4 foot of snow outside.
That's awesome. That's kind of awesome.
I like that idea. I like that idea.
To be a pool party, we needed a pool. So we brought a hot tub. And we filled it up with some nice, beautiful girls and good-looking guys. And we invited anybody of my customers to come in, and we did that for the whole weekend of my birthday. And people had a great time, and people are still talking about it 3 years after.
Ami, did you keep the name, or did you go back to Zanzibar?
I'm right now debating, because I literally have a riot on my hand of people, of my regular customers that says we want the Zanzibar back, because we like the old name, and to some degree we don't want to insult the production, because they were very nice to us, and we had a great time with us, and the girls actually they all become Facebook friends and stuff like that, and I gave them a free check to come and have free drink anytime they're in Denver. So I don't want to insult anybody. I'm still debating on the issue. Name is difficult. It takes time to get used to, and my customers are very loyal to me, and they literally come every day, most of them, and some of them did not like the name change, but we're going along with it for a while, and we'll see what happens if we're able to change the
Ami, let me ask you this, Ami. I noticed, at least from my perspective, when Jon first arrived at the bar, that you were in many ways kind of emulating his approach. Do you think that's true, or do you not think that's true? And I'm specifically talking about when he went into the
sorry,
kitchen.
I don't understand your question. Will you,
The question is, as soon as Jon was yelling at the condition of the kitchen, you sort of were right there with Jon trying to emulate him and yelling and throwing. Do you think you did that consciously? Are you even aware that you might have done that? Again, this is from my perspective.
No. You have to understand the show is cut in a way that it's not one continuous stream of data. They're taking, for the sake of argument, let's say 15, 20 seconds from an hour 1, and then they're taking another 30 seconds from an hour 3. It's not one continuous story. It's more of a, let's call it a watch, winding and unwinding and going back and forth to make for good television. They had nothing on us on the kitchen. I saw other shows that the kitchen was horrible and disgusting. And yes, I got a little bit upset of my guy because my background is food, and my people should know better than to change gloves in between assignments.
Mm-hmm.
That moment of me throwing the glasses was not about the kitchen at all. I'm very happy with my kitchen guy. They do a very good job. That was the part that I was really upset with the girls because they were overpouring.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. No, I was not upset with my...
Oh. Ami, are you there? We lost Ami.
I think we lost him.
I think we lost him.
All right, well, thank you, Ami, if you're listening still. Thank you. That was really great to get your perspective. And once again, we will have Jon Taffer calling in a little bit later. I know, Ron, he's still shooting right now, right?
Yes, he's shooting in Las Vegas. He's shooting an episode as we speak, and as soon as he gets done, he's going to call in.
So we'll await his call. So again, it might be sporadic, so bear with us. But let's get back to things. Let's talk about the overpouring, since that's where he kind of left off. I
was just going to comment one thing that is interesting, and I work with a lot of reality stars, and almost to a person, they say that even though there's somewhat of a patchwork kind of cutting and editing to tell a certain kind of story, a common thread is that the emotions and the person you see is real, and it's not a manipulation, or acting or anything like that. And the person that you are is usually the person that is depicted. Now, the sequence of events may or may not, tell the exact sequence of events that had happened, because it doesn't really tell this, agenda of a beginning and a middle of an end. We've got a bar, we've got overpouring, we've got and so maybe sequentially they get kind of muddy in terms of reality. But the person that you see and the person that that is reacting is fairly accurate. And my guess is it seemed genuine that Jon was really upset, and knowing Jon as I do, when he called his colleague a fat boy, and talking to Jon before seeing the episode, I knew that was coming. I knew he was really upset about that, and he was really, that wasn't a manipulation, and I don't think him calling him names in that whole interaction was, and I don't think the reactions of the employees and the bartenders who didn't seem like they were all in love with him, I think they were all genuine as well.
And I don't think, from knowing Brian, that he would have allowed that guy just to say that, like, we're going to do this and you're going to get upset. There's no way.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of times with any kind of reality television, you watch yourself and you're like, oh.
And by the way,
that
Krisy's speaking from perspective because she was on Bachelor.
I might have done a couple shows. But we don't talk about those. But it's true. You watch it back and you're like, oh, God, what did I say that for? But the words came out of your mouth. And the pushing and the shoving, or however it took, it happened. But I think once we watch it back, we realize that we probably shouldn't have maybe said or acted that way. But, I mean, you did it. You said it. So...
Yeah, and then blaming the girls for the overpouring and everything really got me upset and angry. I really felt like I had Ajita half of this episode because he's yelling at the girls. You're the one giving away the free beer.
drinks.
You're the one the free champagne. I mean, the sex doesn't cost anything. It's not part of your inventory. But you have, and then he was giving away shots. But you're going to blame the girls for all of that? You can't blame your staff for that when you're doing that.
Let me ask an honest question from you guys. What do you think the breakdown of overpouring to him giving away free drinks is? You know,
Well,
like what accounts for that?
The way they made it seem, it looked pretty even.
Yeah.
The amount of shots, and I mean, those champagne bottles are truly only about $3 a pop.
Yeah,
so
it's
I mean,
Andre.
it's not tons. We used to give them away free if you bought a bottle of vodka for $400. But I mean, you don't. But the amount of shots that it seemed. But they called it Bev. What did they call it?
Bev and Tell.
Bev and
Bev and
Tell.
Tell.
We called it Bev and Co. at the last bar that I was at, and their numbers are always on point. So that's the best way to really kind of measure out what it is. But when the boss is giving away so much alcohol, it doesn't matter how much you're overpouring; it's still going to be way off.
Well, yeah, and it creates a culture of giving, and he seems so intent on keeping his core customers happy that he seemed to nurture, and again, we weren't there, but it seemed like that was the environment he provided, and he's probably encouraging them to, give them a really solid shot of, alcohol.
And again, this was my mentality when I first started this show. I was like, what's the problem with overpouring? If the guy wants a shot, get him a shot.
I kind of thought that way,
I was like, okay, I'm finally starting to learn that, that's not a good idea.
Not only is it not a good idea for your liquor costs, it's not a good idea for your customer. Because if you overpour, one, they're not going to drink as much, so you're not going to make as much money. The bar's not going to make as much money, you're not going to make as much money. Second of all, when you overpour certain drinks, they taste horrible. So they're not even going to come back to you, never mind order a second. So it's not just about the bar losing money, like it's about you as a bartender as well. Like a lot of people think, oh, they gave me a bigger tip, I should give them a little bit more in their next shot, but they're not going to drink as much.
Let me ask you guys this, the blindfold, that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever heard of that method?
Yeah. When I'm
new to this.
I trained at TGI Fridays. But to be honest with you, they really do have one of the best bartending, to train. They really do. And it's fantastic. We didn't do the blindfold, but we would do it where they would put a box in front of us.
Yeah.
And they would have test tubes. And you never saw, only the person who was watching the test tubes on the other side. And you would have to do different pours, like an ounce, a quarter ounce, a quarter and a half, 2 ounces, and you would have to do it, and that was blind.
Yeah.
And if you had to do it right, and it was awesome, and that's how I learned how to bartend, and I knew my counts and my pours and everything by doing that. So when I saw that, I was like, I love that. That's brilliant. I think every bartender should do that.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me that you can really, and it's all muscle memory then? It's like
you just know. It's like you just know after a while. You do. And I went to a bartending school in Rhode Island, and we had to do blindfolded pours by the end of our class. But at the last bar that I worked at, they used to do the test tubes once a month. The manager would come around and measure your pours to see who was overpouring and who was underpouring as well.
Yeah.
Well, the consistency that I'm seeing with these bars is that, there's the owner, right? And he's the head of the snake, right? And as Ron was mentioning, by allowing this kind of culture of free stuff, they're overpouring and all that. But every time Jon goes, he obviously has his experts. I feel like, to make a successful bar, you need your experts at the bar and in the kitchen to really run these things and to train them. I mean, in this episode, it was Ami, as he said, he's a good cook. But then, obviously 86 burgers were burnt and all that,
I was wondering about that too. He's, that's his background and his expertise is in.
But again, to his credit, they did say the food was good, beforehand.
Yes.
But again, you can't necessarily micromanage all this. You kind of have to, kind of delegate this and be the embodiment of the business and the spirit. And then just let people be people. Like Sarah, I thought she had a really great plan, and I think she had been thinking about that a long time.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
You could tell she knew her stuff. She knew what she was doing. She knew how to monetize the situation. Like, she knew how to do all that. It was great to see. I wonder if she still has the ability to manage. Because I feel
Currently?
like that was Ami's one thing, is he wasn't allowing himself to let go of control, which I have a huge issue with as well. So I'm right there with Ami. But, you know, sometimes it's hard to delegate because you think, well, I can do it better myself. I'm just going to get it done.
But you have to train, you know what I mean? You have to train
do.
people in that way and then let them take off.
Well, it was apparent even with the glassware, which started off the whole Duffy thing.
Was there not a busser anywhere in that bar?
I wanted to know, was there a busser,
It
there
was
a
the
bar
cook.
back,
It was the-
and who did everything. And that guy, I felt for him.
I loved him.
I loved him. I felt Dave
So
was awesome. And then
earnest.
I heard his story, and I was just like, oh, Dave, don't fire Dave.
I wanted to hug him the whole
I know.
episode. And I've never worked at a bar where the chef has come and brought me food.
No.
Ever.
Never. Oh, and
Ever.
then screaming Luke or whatever the name
felt
was,
so
Larry
bad.
or whoever it was. Where are you? I've never seen that before.
I mean, I've the only place I imagine if you're in a really nice restaurant and let's say you're like the VIP customer, the chef's like, oh, here's, you know, I personally prepared this food for you. That's different.
Maybe Holly Berry gets the chef
Okay,
to
there
bring
you
the
go.
food, but I don't
I'm just
think
saying, I'm just mentioning that as an
at
exception.
Zanzibar.
Wolfgang Puck, it is not.
Yeah.
Yes.
No offense.
But, you know, again, to their credit, I mean, the bar was clean, which a lot of these bars aren't. So at least they were doing those things right.
They were. The bar, I thought that the bar was pretty. I mean, you know, the name may have not matched the inside, but the inside was pretty. They kept it very clean. The staff was all pleasant. And I do think Ami was very passionate about making his customers happy and maybe going about it the wrong way. But I think there comes a point where you just almost lose hope and you try to do anything that you can to keep those people there. And I think that's what we saw.
Well, before we move on to the stresses, I want to mention from my. It became like a cultural thing in the sense of, you know, obviously when you come to this country, you want to prove yourself to people. And, you know, this was taken to the extreme where he wanted to disprove his entire staff. That's not a good thing.
Yeah.
You know. But let's move into the stress test, which we've been kind of hinting at.
Yeah.
But where do you guys want to start? You want to start with the kitchen where the 86 burgers were burnt, or you want to start with... No one has an opinion.
I mean, how do you put
There's
oil in
so much.
hamburgers?
I'm trying to take
And
advice
I
from
love-
you guys.
I love
I'm trying to
where
learn as
even
well.
Dave was like, this was the first time he ever did that. And I wondered what in his head, but I think maybe he was nervous and the cameras were there and everything, and him putting the oil on this meat because he said it was going to make it more moist.
Moist, right.
I think that was, I hate that word, but I really do.
Every girl does. That's really good. I was just told that the other day.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
you said it
so
was.
ugly. But the thing about it is that why would you on camera be the first time you want to try this? But maybe he was nervous and thinking
get
maybe his food wasn't going to stand up, even though in a lot of the reviews they did say the food was pretty decent.
To defend him, I mean, you had so many people coming in that perhaps you were like, oh, this has got to be extra good.
Yes.
Yeah, I do, because this was one of the first episodes where they didn't complain about the food. They didn't complain about the cleanliness for so much. I mean, the kitchen obviously a little bit, but other than that, I mean, he tasted the burger and he was like, that's got great flavor, you know? So it was interesting, but I think you're right. I think it was just the pressure and the nerves and like, ugh.
Yeah.
It was interesting too how the other waitresses never really seemed to help that poor guy. You know, and they're, you know, who is this? Whose order is this? They would just kind of, it's not my, you know, and then with these hieroglyphics, you know, of these orders, you know, what, you know, on the check stubs, you know, and he's trying to figure out what that means and how they didn't seem, and again I would go back to the owner. What kind of systems do you have in place? If he's got all these great systems, he's back now, right?
Yes.
And he's back and he's been running it for a while. And you know, why isn't there a system just in terms of getting the food to the chef and getting the food out of the kitchen to the right person?
And that's when I almost started to
101. I'm not. You guys are experts.
Yeah.
But that's when I almost started to believe that maybe the girls weren't as great as they were saying they were, because that was the moment when I was like, wait a minute. So you're writing down the ticket, you're bringing it in, and then the chef's bringing you the food, and you're not telling him. You're pointing to a table and saying it's over there. That's the moment where I was like, something else isn't right.
Yeah, I mean, because I thought that too. And you're going to point over to where the billiards tables are,
Right.
and how many of those are over there? have fun.
Like there's no food runner, bar
Poor
back
guy with his
busser.
Rubbermaid gloves on,
Yeah.
running around.
And food still cooking in the kitchen. That
Right.
was my other thing. If you were going to do that, let's say they were going to keep that going, which they're not doing anymore, but have another cook in there cooking and then somebody delivering, or have a food runner, hire a food runner, pay them, whatever the minimum wage is, and have the girls tip them out, because they're making money on that anyway. The girls are the ones making the money. Dave's not.
I'm getting word that we have Jon Taffer on the line. Jon, are you there?
I am.
Welcome, Jon. We have Phil Svitek joined along with Dorinda Barker,
Hi.
Krisily Kennedy, and Ron Hoffman.
Jon Taffer, it's an honor to talk to
Hi,
you.
everybody.
Hey.
I haven't heard your voice in a long time, Ron, all of a day or so. That was a heck of a week in Denver, I must tell you.
Oof, it looked like it.
What was I want to ask you this? In terms of Ami, the level of his stress and anger, you can't necessarily change a person right away. And so, do you fear that that he's still kind of dealing with anger management issues, and how he's dealing with that? Have you been helping him with that? What's he like now?
Well, sometimes people are under unbelievable pressure, and Ami was, from his illness to feeling he lost control of his business to the losses. And, I always find it interesting, if I can anecdote for a moment, how, when the owners come on your show or speak to people, suddenly they weren't losing so much money. Suddenly it wasn't so
Funny
bad.
you should say that, Joe.
He's the one who looked at the cameras and said in 3 months he was going to be out of money. He's the one who looked at the cameras and said how much money he was losing. So let's understand that the man was, in fact, losing money, was running out of money, said so, and was feeling that pressure. So I think he cracked the pressure. And you show him that there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's almost like taking a big, deep breath. Suddenly, the next day feels better. And candidly, I think after our argument, he really started to trust me, and I think that trust allowed him to relax a little.
Yeah, I mean, Dorinda had mentioned it, and we all really thought that was the turning point where you had talked with him. Was that your only talk? How long was that talk? And what was said that might have not been seen on camera?
Yeah, when I'm in Bar Rescue, and I've mentioned this to you guys before, I have 5 days to do what I normally do in about 30 days, so I'm under pressure. There's a clock ticking in my head every minute. So I sat down with Ami literally minutes after you saw him shake hands with Chef Duffy. We walked over to a table and sat down. That was the following morning after our incident. And I looked at him and I said, listen, I'm here to help you. Your success is my success. The last thing in the world I want is to walk at her and have it be a failure. And we realized that we had a common objective. And whenever you disagree with anyone in any situation, that's what you find. What's our common goal together? What's our common ground? And that common ground was his victory. And once he understood that was important to me, man, he was on board. And he changed pretty quickly, right before my eyes. It was remarkable. Unlike some other people, Dorinda, I won't say it, but unlike some other people.
It's already been mentioned once tonight.
I bet, yeah, I'm sure it has. But there was something, Phil, about Ami. He was a genuinely good guy. There was a warmth to him. And even when he was being a jerk to his staff, screaming and yelling like some dictator, was unbelievably obnoxious. There was still something likable about him. Like you're almost thinking, is there a chance he's kidding around? After a few minutes, you realize he's not. But there is something incredibly likable about him, too, and that's what I grabbed onto.
Well, you just saw after you kind of comforted him with your, when you sat down with him and you gave him your kind of, look, we have disagreements in business all the time. We move on, but at the end of the day, I'm here to help you, and I know you could use my help, can't you? And you could just see, like, all of a sudden his guard and everything just melted, into this like puddle. You're right, and I do respect what you do, and I do need your help, and I do, it was, to me, that was one of the more cathartic moments I've just seen right in front of my eyes in terms of the course of the show. The other cathartic moment, and I just have to say this, knowing you as well as I do, Jon, I've never seen you get to that point of physicality where you just like bull rushed that guy, and I thought you were going to take him out.
Yeah.
well, you know me, Ron, and friendship and integrity and things like that mean a lot to me. And Chef Duffy, Brian, is one of the best people I know. This is a really good guy. And to look at him and say "fat boy" again and again and again, I couldn't take it. Yeah. And candidly, when he insulted his employees as well, it was over the top. And it was one thing if he insulted me, Ron, I probably would have dealt with it a little more politically. But insulting Brian and my friends, that was over the top. And to tell you the truth, he deserved to be called out on it.
Yeah.
It's one of my most darkest moments professionally. I can't believe we actually had an altercation together for a moment. And clearly nothing that's ever happened to me before. But son of a gun, the guy had it coming. You must admit, he had to be called out on it.
He did, and it showing him that you need to stand up for your team and you need to stand up for the people that are supporting you and help you. You showing him that, I think, made a lot of progress with his change the next day.
Yeah.
I think it did. Also, his staff, and what he said was very correct. It's 5 days edited down to a 1 hour television show. There's a lot that you didn't see in that show about his staff beating him up, to tell you the truth. His staff telling him, come on, straighten out. This is your opportunity, et cetera, et cetera. So his staff also played a part in changing him, no question.
That's awesome.
Who was, in terms of the staff, who do you think was the best? I mean, we got Sarah for screen time, taking over this episode, and I thought she was amazing. Who else kind of stepped up as a staff member?
They actually all did, every single one of them. And some of them might have had better physical skills than others. It's funny, during the mentioned Fridays, I hosted the World Championship bartending competition just the other day, and they are the best in the world. But, some of these bartenders had better skills than others, but when it came to attitude, effort, and caring, every one of them stepped up. It was a great team. It's very motivating to me when I'm working with people like that I care. They were good people. In a bad place, but good people.
The one thing that I loved about this episode, and John, I'm pretty sure you know a Mr. John Reedy from Rhode Island that owns Mardi Gras. Of
course I do. Right. I know John years.
I worked for John for 8 years in Rhode Island, and the one thing that I appreciated about Ami tonight was that he not only told us that his bar staff was his family, but he also made it very evident in the episode that his customers were his family. And a lot of bar owners don't look at it that way, and I so appreciated that, because as you know, Mardi Gras, we're all regulars. So it was great to see that the customers were also called family tonight, because it's true. They really do become part of your family as well as the staff.
Well, it's true, and I get to go to Mardi Gras every few years when I'm in Warwick, Rhode Island.
I remember.
And, it's great. It's great to see Paulie and the team still there year after year after year, and there's something to be said for that.
Yeah.
And that's why that team's so good, Phil. One person stood out. They were great. They really believed in each other, and they stepped to the plate. And I understand that their revenues are up about 50%, and that they're doing pretty well.
What I found so compelling too about this episode, just observationally, and I don't know if this is, through the telling of the story in this particular episode, is how charming the staff was. I really liked all of the bartenders in this, much more.
Yeah.
I thought Sarah was a doll, and all of them seemed really, the most charming. If I were to give a cast award for most charming bartending staff, this one would be right up there of all the episodes you've done.
I'd agree. Also, Ron, you got to mention Dave, the cook in the kitchen.
We love Dave.
Brain aneurysm. Now, there's something that only really played in the show for a moment, and you guys didn't mention it. I just got to talk about this. Ami went into the kitchen and took, a cup of oil, cooking oil, and poured it into the chop meat and mixed it in. Then poor Dave puts this hamburger meat on the char grill, and the entire thing caught on fire.
Right.
The kitchen almost burned down. It was unbelievable. And that's why Duffy went crazy and said, no burgers, 86 on burgers. Now, you guys saw that for a minute.
Yeah.
But in all my years, I have never seen anything like that before in my life. Everything that Ami did just buried Dave more and more and more.
Yeah.
And, it was really something to see. And by the time we did the grand opening, Ami really laid back and let Dave do his job, but he was a good guy and sort of was put in a bad place, no question.
Oh, yeah. That was the one thing we were talking about right before you called. Like, he just seemed like the genuine guy. And we were saying we both just wanted to hug him.
Such a hard worker. Like,
Yes.
he was such a hard worker.
We're glad you didn't fire him, John.
Yeah.
No, and he cared about quality and everything. And, you know, guys, I don't fire people because of what they do. I fire people when I see there's no potential to change that. And it's never a personal decision. And Dave had a desire for quality and care, and with a little training, he'd be successful. Remember, I never fire a person. You fire their potential, if you will, or lack of it.
Let me ask you this: with this bar, there wasn't a lot of cleaning to do. I mean, aside from the kitchen, things like that. Do you look at each bar? Do you kind of go, okay, thank God we don't have to deal with cockroaches, or like, you know?
It seemed like the bones of this particular establishment all the way across the board was in better shape than a lot of your other ones where you could really put a lot of budget or whatever into, and it seemed like what it really needed were systems that you really kind of perfected. That none of that seemed in place. Is that an accurate assessment of where your focus was on this episode?
Yeah, it is, Ron, and that's a direct result of the pride of the owner. Ami's a proud man. There's no question about it. A very proud man. And that showed in the cleanliness and the way he kept his business. So when I walk into a rescue and the basics are in place, cleanliness, et cetera, I can go to work and create a far better concept. When I have to deal with cockroaches and filth for the first day and a half I'm there, it sets me back 20% of my time, 30% of my time that I have to make the place better. So it's a big price for me. Headhunters is an example of that. I lost a whole day fumigating the building.
That was the most terrifying episode that I've watched so far because of those bugs.
Oh, that was disgusting.
Let's talk.
Dorinda, you think it was disgusting watching it. Could you imagine what it was like living it?
Oh, I wouldn't be able to stay in there. I don't know how you did it. I wouldn't have done it. I would have done it from outside.
The only other thing, Ryan, you're right, systems. The only thing you didn't mention that was key was a concept. And, that was a useful market. And I had to do something to energize this place and monetize those pool tables. And our view was that 3 days a week we could crank up the energy, get the younger audience in there from the colleges, and we could crank some beer off those tables in the back. And that was the objective. And I understand it's working well, but that concept of energy to drive youth was key to what we did as well.
Yeah, that was one thing I liked, how you opened up and you had Duffy come off a bus. And for the first moment, we didn't understand why he was coming off the bus. So there was a laugh or two. But then watching it and then explaining it, that I thought that was great. Because, I would have never known that Denver is a huge mass transportation hub. I would have never known that. And you really worked on it, which I love the science part of everything that you do. So congrats on that. I had no idea about that. So you taught me something about Denver.
Well, I'm from, I happen to have gone to college in Denver during the, when I go into a market, those are the things that can determine success or failure. I have to do my homework. So I pull every kind of demographic, psychographic, socioeconomic report. We look at the marketplace. We look at the competition. I've been doing this 35 years, long before there was a TV camera on me. So, I come into these markets, and some people will say, well, he's not from here. I would say, well, that's why I'm good, because I have fresh eyes and I come in objectively, not emotionally. And that's one of those objective things you find that you can prosper from.
Let me ask you this, John. Let's talk about his gimmick: free sex, free champagne, free beer. I mean, what was your initial reaction to this? Like, how did you first hear of this and that was his gimmick?
Well, Jenny and I were actually sitting in the SUV outside, and he came outside and started doing it. So that was the first time I saw it. And then my research team had a video of him doing it from the day before, but I had not seen that. When I turn on the iPad or look at data and things like that in the SUV, most of the time it's the first time I've ever seen that. So that was fresh for me, and I couldn't believe it. It was free sex, and he said it to a couple walking by, which was interesting. And actually desperation like that are perceived as exactly that. And I couldn't believe it when Ami said it after we talked about it. I still think it's a good idea.
I know.
And I say that out of love because I happen to truly love him. He's a terrific guy. But, you know, it doesn't mean that we don't make funny mistakes every once in a while, right?
And he understands now that that wasn't a smart gimmick, right? Like, we're clear on that with him.
Well, you know, it's interesting, guys. People might go to bars that are cheap in some places, but generally speaking, you know, people go to bars that they relate to. People go to bars that they connect with. People don't go to bars that they think are uncool or desperate or dated or irrelevant. So when you stand in front and you do that, you just categorize yourself as all of those things. And it erodes the potential of, you know, 100 people walking by down to 10 people walking by. It's just not smart.
Was there anything in this episode, Jon, that you've never really kind of encountered before? I mean, it seems like you've done, you know, in all of these years, just about every kind of bar and seen just about everything. But, like, had you ever done a billiard-themed nightclub before? Or was there anything kind of really stands out in your mind as something that this was the first time I'd ever encountered that? A crazy Israeli, maybe? Or, I don't know. You know, was there something that
You know, the first bar, I'm on sports bars, Ron, as you know, with billiard rooms and things in them over the years, but this concept of a high-energy billiard hall or billiard nightclub where we had lighting effects underneath the tables, on top of the tables. We had 2-color pool tables, and then we had this package where you picked up 4 beer glasses and your cues, and it was a unique way that we packaged it and presented it.
Actually, yeah.
I've never put special effects lighting below and above the pool table before, so that was the first for me. And I think it's right. I think 2 to 3, possibly 4 days a week, you can drive a lot of energy and a lot of excitement with that system for a youthful audience, and that's exactly what goes into that area. So I think it was a good call, but it was the first time I ever did that. What was
he asking? He mentioned on his call about this beer wall, or some sort of something.
Self-serve beer.
Self-serve that
Yes.
What was that all about?
If you guys recall, and I hate to bring it up in the Pirates episode, I actually used a beer draft table in the back of the bar where you had to get a key, remember?
Oh,
yes,
yeah.
I remember
a
that.
magnetic key in the hole, and you could pull your own draft beer. And the way it was set up is you have a little fob or a key type of device, and you can put up to 2 beers on it at the same time, not more, so nobody can be over-intoxicated. So when you got your 4 glasses and the balls from the billiard counter, you would also get your key. And you could go up to the beer wall, which was right there, and dispense your own beer. Now, Ami might say the waitresses didn't like it, etc. I'm going to come back and say there were no waitresses in the billiard room. You didn't monetize it at all in the first place. Yeah. So I set up a system for you where you don't have to staff it as much. It doesn't impact the sales of the girls that you already have, but it provides a unique opportunity, and it allows you to move more beer. So, you know, I personally I think it was a mistake for him to remove it. I also think it was a neat item in Denver. But that's what that was, Ron. It was that system where you put the little key in the slot, and you get to pour yourself 2 beers, and you get to pick what brand or flavor beer you like each time you go up. It's a lot of fun.
It seems like that makes so much more sense now, because I didn't understand it. Like, I understood, oh, well, if the bartenders aren't getting it, but if they're the pool people, then it's helping the bartenders do one less thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Also, Krisily, I was relieving the bar. You know, what I'm doing is 50% of that building is empty because it didn't do any revenue. So by filling those pool tables, I'm now putting a huge burden on 2 bartending stations. So by putting that draft beer wall in the billiard room, by the way, it allowed people to fill their own beers, keep their revenues flowing. It also allowed the waitresses to sell cocktails and food, which would be upsell items for us. So I agree with the logic of it, and candidly, I think you should have left it.
Yeah, that makes a lot more sense what you just explained, because even last night we were talking about it, and they're like, because the billiards were so big, there were so many of them, they're like, there should be another bar there. But now you explaining what that was, that makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
It was really a way to produce it at a lower cost, and it really didn't have a negative impact on the service because, again, they weren't in there in the first place.
Yeah.
And how it seems 1997 or whatever it was that you charged seems like such a good deal. You get 4 beers and, you know, a rack of balls and 2
appetizers.
2 appetizers?
I think it was 2 appetizers. It was fantastic.
It was like
really
as
good
opposed
deal.
to shooting pool for free. You know, isn't it how psychologically? I'd rather pay for a good deal than do something for free and feel like it's not worth any money at all.
I can't even bowl for that amount of
Does that
money
make sense?
with no food.
Yeah.
Like
Well,
you
that
can't
was
even
the
go
deal.
bowling here with that.
The purpose of it was to introduce the marketplace to playing pool and paying for it in this place. And the cost on that, by the way, was about $12.50. So you know, we made a nice profit on it. Not quite as much as I would like to make. But the strategy is you get people used to playing, and then you can sneak those prices up a little as time goes on.
So, you know, was there another sort of price if you didn't want to get that deal? Like, is there an alternative that we didn't see on the show?
No, there was there was that deal, but you could also go to the pool tables and not do that and just get your balls and play.
Yeah.
But then you had to pay $5 for pool.
Okay.
So rather than pay $5 for pool, heck, I'll do the $19.95 and get the beer and the appetizer. That was the strategic logic of it. And of course, about 80-90% of the people did it with the same reaction you guys had. Wow, that's a great deal. Let's just do that. So they did it.
Yeah, especially like if you're on a date or whatever. I think it's fantastic.
Well, we live in L.A. where we're going to pay $20 just to park our car.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there was another thing that didn't play in the episode because we didn't have a lot of time, and that was the pool appetizers that we created. We created 6 apps that came out of the kitchen in under 10 minutes that were designed for pool players. So no matter when you ordered it, you had it by the end of your game. And it was all finger foods, didn't get you greasy, didn't affect the pool cue, and there was a whole science to what would a fast billiards menu be. And, you know, sometimes great things don't get to play in an episode, but that was something I really had fun doing, and unfortunately we didn't have time to show it.
I'm curious, could you give me a breakdown of all the things that you sort of, when you go into a rescue, what are you kind of what's your checklist? Cleanliness, food, uniforms, all this, because, you know, obviously we focus on, let's say, you know, 3 to 4 items during the actual episode, but I know your mind, the way it works, it just covers everything. And so what is that checklist like?
Well, you know, it's interesting, Phil. My checklist starts before I go in the bar. I have to understand the market demographics and who's walking in there, who the target customer is, because I have to adjust my views to the views of the target customer. My opinion is opinion. The customer's statement is fact. So it starts with me understanding who the target customer is, and then it starts right in front. What does it look like? What is the signage? Does it target the correct audience? I'm doing a bar rescue now in another city. The darn place looks like a pancake house, and I'm trying to turn it into a bar. If I don't fix that, what I do on the inside is never going to get better. So it really starts in front with appeal, targeting, creating an environment that pulls people in the front door. Once you're in the front door, probably 70 to 80% of the sciences that I calculate in each visit, and there's probably 100 in my mind because I'm a nutcase about this stuff. 70 to 80% of them happen within the first 3 steps in.
Wow.
Believe it or not. Where my eyes go, what I see within the first steps in. Immediately I see seating heights as it relates to the target audience. Backs on bar stools or not, for example. And some people might not like this, but I'll say it anyway. If the targeted demographic for women is over 34 years old, I put backs on bar stools. If that targeted demo is under 34 years old, I don't. Why? When women are over 30, they get a little sensitive about their back end. So these are the kinds of things that I look at scientifically. Seating heights, types of seating, environment. Is it soft? Is it hard? My eyes scattered the room, and I assessed the environment. Probably 20 or 30 different elements. Then my eyes moved to the back bar, bottle displays, right heights, lighting. Where the first places my eyes landed, was it a stupid piece of artwork, or was it the back bar where it should be? You know, what is the glassware setup? What type of glassware? And all of that happens, and I never really thought about it in this way, Phil, but I'm guessing it's 100, 120 things that actually click through my brain as my eyes move all around that room, from caddies to what kind of salt shaker is on the table. To everything is sucked up and assessed and related back to the target customer. And either it fits the target customer in some ways, or it doesn't. But really, that's the process that I go through, and it's 30 years of doing it, and candidly, I'm a nutcase. I don't want to know what people do in bars. I want to know why they do it. And I really believe that I'm as good as anybody in the world at getting you to buy what I want you to buy when I want you to buy it, getting you to dance more than you would, talk more than you would, walk more than you would, interact more than you would, look in people's eyes more than you would. And when I cause those things to happen, I can get my hand very deep in your pocket. But to me, it all comes back to those sciences and those first 3 steps.
Wow. Well, we're kind of running out of time, but I want to make sure, are there any burning questions from you guys? Krisily, Ron, Dorinda?
I think I
This
said
is where-
everything.
I
This
think
is
we
where the ball
covered
rolls out
everything.
of bounds.
No, I will say that although he did tail it, but I did love the God sent me an angel. I didn't love the big mean Jon
From
part
Ami.
because, I loved
Yes.
that line tonight because I've said this to you guys before, and now that Jon has agreed, I've met him before, and he's the sweetest, nicest guy in the world. So to see him on the episode and to hear him called mean made me sad, but I loved that he said God sent me an angel.
Well, I think he actually meant that, and I'm going
do
to
too.
tell you something. Of course, I get to watch cuts and pre-edits of the show as we go through our editing process. This is the first episode I've ever watched in the privacy of my own home, just watching a cut on my computer, that I actually teared up and cried at the end. When he said, God sent me an angel, I knew he meant it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you consider where we were at 4 days earlier than that, it was incredibly touching to me. And it's the first time I've ever really teared up at the end of an episode. So Ami touched me, too. And he's a good guy, and I wish him the very, very best.
Well, Jon, I have a question. As your publicist, I feel like I have to ask this question. What are you doing next week? What is going on in your life next week that might be worth mentioning?
Ooh.
I'm not surprised that you asked, Ron. Next week is the 2013 Nightclub and Bar Convention in Las Vegas at the Las Vegas Convention Center.
Oh, really?
Me and about 38,000 of my closest bar friends are all going to Las Vegas. We have about 700 booths in the convention center. 3 days of the most famous and best parties in Las Vegas. We're at Excess, we're at Marquee, we're at Tryst, we're at Surrender, we're at Pure, and 70 of the best educational classes in the bar business. So it's 3 days a year that I look forward to, and it's a blast, and I know you'll be there with me.
Yeah. It seems like an event like that would have somebody really great cutting the ribbon to it.
Yes, Ron. CeeLo is cutting the ribbon with me this year.
CeeLo?
And I'm pretty excited about it.
CeeLo's going to be there cutting the ribbon with you?
Yes, he is. And every year we have a different celebrity cut the ribbon with me. And last year was Toby Keith. The year before was A Situation. And the year before that was Dan Aykroyd. And before that, I can't remember. But, yes, CeeLo is cutting the ribbon with me there. He's going to be there this year. We have a lot of celebrities coming this year. Again, it's about 38,000 people. And people that are interested can see more at ncbshow.com, ncbshow.com.
They could probably even hear you speak to them in terms of...
Yeah.
As you can see, guys, I prepared this plug. Yes. By coincidence, Ron, I happen to be giving the keynote address.
Oh, the keynote address.
And Dorinda, you would get a kick out of this. The other keynote address is being given by Nick Shepard, the CEO of Fridays, who's a very, very dear friend of mine.
That's awesome. This will be the first in 5 years that I am not going to the Nightclub and Bar Convention. It will be, I mean, I've been a bartender for,
Krisily, how do we get you in there?
I know, it's the first in 5 years that I won't be there. I'm a little
Come
sad.
to the press room and I'll check you in.
That's it.
We'll get you in,
Coming with
Krisily.
you guys.
You guys broadcasting from the floor one day.
I think that we
That
should do
would be
that.
amazing.
Let's go, Dorinda.
We mentioned this, but I really want to make the mix-off between Mario Lopez and Maria Menounos as judged by you happen.
Yeah.
And with Ron here as my witness, we're going to make it happen.
I cannot wait to see that.
I'm in. Phil, I'm in. Let's do it.
Do it.
All right. And Kevin would be so mad if I didn't say this. Kevin really wanted to be here tonight, but unfortunately he's out promoting his movie Adventures of Serial Buddies with Maria Menounos over at Adam Carolla's studio, so unfortunately he couldn't be here tonight, but he was so torn. You should have seen him, so he wishes he was here, Jon.
And you do know
Well, I
that
wish
they
he
make...
was here, too. I've got to tell you, I've tweeted about his movie a couple of times myself, and I'm looking forward to seeing it, so I understand.
Thank you for your support, Jon.
And you know that they make everybody here at AFTERBUZZ watch Bar Rescue now.
I heard.
My staff does, yes, they do.
I'm charging a cover charge, I think, Dorinda.
All right. Well, thank you, Jon,
everybody.
so much for calling in. We really, really appreciate it. Thank you, listeners, for listening and tuning in yet again. Hope you guys learned a lot. I certainly did. Thank you, Ron Hoffman, for joining in. It was a blast to have you.
To make my triumphant return after all these. And on this show, of all shows where I actually have some insight.
Well, you had good insights on Glee. So for those of you Gleeks out there, check out Ron, in the early seasons. I think it was season 2. Krisily, where can we find you?
You guys can find me on Twitter and on Instagram at Krisily.
And Ron, where can we find you?
I'm omnipresent. I have.
Give John one more plug. What's the website again?
Well, JonTaffer.com.
JonTaffer.
NCBShow.com is for the nightclub and bar convention in Las Vegas, which is next week, the 19th through the 21st in Las Vegas.
Krisily, I'm going to get you in.
We need to be there. AfterBuzz live from the nightclub and bar convention.
We'll get you in.
Edition.
Yeah, I think that'd be fantastic.
Dorinda, let's do it.
I would love it.
Lula Cherry Films?
Yeah, Lula Cherry Films.
Lula Cherry Films for Dorinda. And of course, you can find us here at AfterBuzz TV on Twitter and Instagram. Thank you guys for joining us. We'll be back next week. Until then, we're signing off.
From Bing.com, executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.